Amid the dense Nordic wilderness, a mist curls softly around a sturdy Viking longhouse. Outside, a shadowy pit latrine lies just beyond weathered wooden planks, an overlooked yet vital part of daily life. This is where the fiercest warriors pause not for battle, but for a necessary ritual hidden deep in the earth. The longships may have carried their fury across seas, but these quiet moments shaped the rhythms of Viking existence in ways rarely imagined. Closer now, hardened fecal rings circle the pit's edge, with beetles scuttling over them, tirelessly tending this unusual ecosystem. The damp earth holds the traces of generations, reflecting not just hygiene but social structure and survival strategies. This was no simple bathroom. It was a stage where biology and culture met, a place where life's most basic needs influenced community and health. What if the daily act of using the latrine shaped the Viking world as much as their raids and exploration? What if beneath their fierce reputation lay rituals that defined their society's very fabric? Tonight, we descend into the cesspits and privies of the Viking Age and never look at history the same way again. In the cold, mistrudy dawn, fog drifts silently off the rugged Norwegian the distant calls of gulls echo across the water, underscoring the isolation and raw beauty of the Viking homeland. Here, life and death often rested on unexpected places, where the land met the sea in quiet mystery. Eric, the farmer, carefully lifts a weathered plank, revealing a deep pit beneath 2 meters carved into the earth. Layered with peat, pollen, and centuries of human waste, the flickering torchlight casts uneasy shadows on the pit's walls as Eric recoils, confronted by the potent mix of disgust and historical evidence beneath him. Beneath the earth lay a record not only of survival but of sickness, etched in layers few would dare to examine. Summoning Astrid the cook, Eric watches as she approaches, face stealing against the stench. She murmurs a solemn blessing, invoking salt and ash to protect their kin from plague and pestilence. Even amid refuse, the Vikings sought protection, practical needs woven deeply with spiritual hope. From the shadows emerges Saga, the seer, her throat-singing voice rising in an ancient incantation. As coils of smoke curl above the pit, the ritual sanctifies this place, linking sanitation with the sacred, as if to contain unseen dangers through song and spirit. Freshly cut yarrow leaves are cast into the pit, a symbolic ward against worms and disease. The blend of practical hygiene and mysticism reveals a Viking world where the sacred and the everyday were inseparable. Tonight, we delve into the hidden world beneath their feet. Today, sanitation is a given. A porcelain throne gleams beneath bright neon lights. Chrome faucets drip steadily, and running water hums softly. Every home boasts these comforts, symbols of modern hygiene and convenience. The smartphone's glow casts flickering light as a homeowner scrolls through social media, blending moments of privacy with constant connectivity. Even in the most private acts, we remain tethered to the digital world, never fully alone. Globally, 4.5 billion people now have access to flush toilets, a staggering advance, yet 892 million still practice open defecation, living without basic sanitation. This stark divide reveals how far progress has come and how much remains to be done. Sanitation is a luxury many have yet to attain, a reminder that public health is still a global challenge. A millennium ago, Vikings constructed primitive toilet-simple pits beneath their longhouses. Despite the risks of filth and contagion, they embraced these rudimentary latrines for privacy and hygiene long before indoor plumbing existed. The worn wood and earth reveal a paradox. Early sanitation born from danger. Why would they risk disease and exposure? For Vikings, sanitation was not just practical, it was vital to survival and deeply intertwined with ritual. Smoke curled in ritual wards, and cleanliness was a spiritual practice as much as a health measure. We often boast of our modern flush toilets, yet the Viking legacy challenges us to rethink cleanliness and the meaning of sanitation itself. Their ingenuity invites us to reconsider how far we truly command what it means to live clean. Viking sanitation was far more than simple cleanliness. It was a sophisticated blend of practical engineering and deeply held spiritual beliefs. From carefully constructed privy pits in bustling towns to chamber pots used on remote farms, these systems managed human waste efficiently while respecting sacred customs. Their latrines were crossroads where necessity met mysticism, balancing daily survival with ritual protection. The Vikings engineered solutions to the pressing challenges of their environment, integrating faith and function in ways that shaped their communities. Archaeological excavations have uncovered remarkable evidence, including Denmark's oldest known rural latrine, shedding light on Viking waste management. Coprolite analysis studies of fossilized feces reveal details about parasite burdens and diet, offering a microscopic window into their health and hardships. These scientific findings peel back the layers of time to reveal intimate aspects of Viking life, hidden beneath the earth and preserved in soil samples, telling stories of survival and resilience. Alongside engineering, ethnobotanical rituals played a vital role. Vikings used plants like yarrow, juniper, and ash, known for their antiparasitic and purifying properties, in ceremonies designed to ward off worms and cleanse latrines. These practices intertwined hygiene with spiritual safeguarding, reflecting a worldview where sanitation was inseparable from faith and protection. The ritual use of herbs and smoke transformed the practical act of waste disposal into a sacred duty. Join us as we step into reconstructed Viking halls, immersing ourselves in the sights, smells, and secrecy of their sanitation practices. Experience the social dynamics surrounding these hidden spaces, the discomfort, the rituals, and the resilience required to live alongside them. Brace yourself for a journey into Viking privies where filth met faith and dung-shaped destiny. Archaeologists carefully excavate a peat-lined privy pit on Denmark's Stevens Peninsula, revealing layers of fecal matter dating back nearly 1,000 years. This 2-meter-deep pit is among the oldest known rural latrines, offering a rare glimpse into Viking sanitation practices beyond the urban centers. Preserved within the layers are seeds, insect pupae, and fragments of bone, all telling stories of diet, environment, and health. The meticulous excavation and analysis reveal how Vikings engineered waste management long before modern plumbing, underscoring their sophisticated approach to sanitation amid challenging conditions. Beneath centuries of earth, Vikings engineered sanitation like few before. Findings indicate that Vikings constructed dedicated privy buildings rather than simply dumping waste in mid. These standalone latrines were carefully designed and separated from living quarters to manage hygiene and odors. Reconstructions show wooden frameworks with stone-lined pits, reflecting thoughtful engineering. This approach suggests that sanitation was an intentional feature of Viking settlements, integrating waste management into their architectural planning. The built environment embraced cleanliness as a necessity, not an afterthought, highlighting the practical wisdom of their communities. Sanitation was a built environment, not an afterthought. Excavations in Jorvik, present-day York, reveal complex cesspits beneath timber houses and castle closets with wooden seats perched over stone shafts. These urban latrines demonstrate the Vikings' investment in managing waste in crowded settings. Archaeological evidence and 3D depict a network of sanitation facilities designed to serve bustling Viking towns. emphasizing their adaptation to urban life's challenges. This investment in public health infrastructure contrasts with common assumptions, showing how even medieval towns prioritized hygiene. Even bustling Viking towns invested in waste management. The Lloyds Bank coprolite, petrified fecal deposit discovered in Yorkborough, provides an extraordinary record of Viking diet and health. Laboratory analysis reveals a diet rich in meat and bread, but heavily infested with parasites such as whip. This coprolite serves as a biological snapshot of the health burdens Vikings carried daily, linking dietary habits to parasite prevalence. Magnified parasite eggs uncovered in the sample underscore the persistent health challenges despite advanced sanitation. A glimpse into Viking guts and diet. Recovered whipworm and other helminth eggs from Viking latrines highlight how chronic parasite infestations shaped their public health landscape. These parasites likely caused ongoing illness, influencing immunity development and population health. Animated life cycle sequences of parasites illustrate transmission and impact. Scientific analysis reveals that Viking communities lived with these burdens continuously, affecting social and labor capacities. Parasites shaped lives as much as swords did. Parasitologist Dr. Christian Kappel explains that host-parasite coevolution reveals an ancient biological relationship. Studying these ancient worms offers insight into millennia of survival and adaptation between humans and parasites. This coevolution shapes immune responses and genetic factors still relevant today. The worms carried by Vikings are part of a long lineage connecting past and present health. Our ancestors' worms tell stories of survival and adaptation. Feces and urine collected from latrines were repurposed as fertilizer, enhancing barley field yields and demonstrating early closed-loop farming practices. Archaeobotanical evidence shows runoff channels, directing nutrient-rich waste to fields. This practice improved soil fertility and crop productivity, illustrating ecological knowledge and sustainability. Vikings transformed sanitation waste into a valuable agricultural asset, intertwining hygiene and food security. Sanitation was sustainability in Viking farming. Botanical analyses confirm higher crop yields in areas receiving privy runoff. Microscopic pollen and soil data show flourishing barley fields directly linked to waste fertilization. These findings reveal Vikings' understanding of nutrient cycling and ecosystem management. Their farms benefited from this natural fertilization, supporting larger populations and more robust economies. The earth returned their waste in abundance. Dr. Anna Beck highlights how these discoveries overturned stereotype, showing Vikings' care for sanitation even in rural settings. Interviews and museum artifacts underscore that cleanliness and public health were integral to Viking life. These findings reveal a community attentive to hygiene, contradicting images of unbridled barbarism. Sanitation was a pillar of Viking life. This evidence challenges the common narrative of Vikings as merely raiders, illustrating them as innovators in environmental and health practices. Contrasting images of warriors with skilled farmstead engineers reveal a nuanced society. Vikings managed complex settlements with attention to sanitation, health, and sustainability. Vikings were innovators, not just invaders. A CGI cross-section animates a Viking farmstead, tracing water and waste flow from latrine through settling tanks to fertilized fields. This visualization links sanitation infrastructure to agricultural prosperity, highlighting an ancient ecological cycle. The animation emphasizes how Vikings integrated waste management into daily life, sustaining their communities. In their waste, Vikings found a secret to life and legacy. The first light of dawn spills over a rugged turf-roofed farmstead, smoke curling gently from the cooking hearth. The crisp morning air carries a faint odour from the nearby privy Peter Constant, if unwelcome, presence in daily life. The farm's wooden structures cast long shadows across the earth, grounding the household in a rhythm that blends survival with ritual. As villagers stir, the privy pit remains a silent witness to countless acts of necessity. Morning light reveals not just life, but the daily dance with decay. Astrid the cook emerges from the farmhouse, hands steady as she passes a wooden chamber pot known as a skite pot to Leif the farmhand. Hurry! Before the sun rises, she urges softly, reminding him of the need for discretion. Leif tiptoes behind a turf screen, clutching the pot carefully, aware that sanitation was not just practical but bound to privacy and custom. This small, careful act punctuates the morning, marking a blend of routine and respect in managing daily refuse. Sanitation was timed with nature and custom. Leif reaches the edge of the privy pit and slowly empties the contents of the chamber pot. A pungent stench rises, mingling with the damp earth and morning mist. Flies buzz and scatter as the waste falls, the moment at once ordinary and weighted with practical significance. Every deposit signals a quiet act of survival, linking household hygiene with communal health. It is a ritual, both humble and essential, marking the invisible labor underpinning daily Viking life. Every deposit was a quiet act of survival. Bjorn the Ural surveys the castle garderobe stone-walled latrine projecting precariously over the moat below. His sharp eyes scan as a servant discreetly signals when it is safe to empty the contents onto the battlements. This choreographed exchange exemplifies the strict hierarchy governing even waste disposal, emphasizing control and order. Waste was more than refuse. It was power, carefully managed and commanded to maintain the balance of authority within the stronghold. Waste was power, controlled and commanded. From the garderobe, waste plunges into the moat, creating a noxious barrier around the fortress. The odor and contamination risk were accepted trade-offs, reflecting Viking pragmatism. The polluted waters deterred invaders, but threatened water quality. This dual function illustrates sanitation as both defensive strategy and hygiene measure. Such practical compromises show how Vikings integrated waste management within their broader efforts to secure and sustain their realm. Sanitation served defense as well as hygiene. Saga the seer approaches the privy plank, holding bundles of yarrow and juniper. As she burns the herbs, smoke curls around the wooden surface, her throat singing incantations imbue the cleansing with spiritual meaning, blending superstition with hygiene. This ritual seeks to ward off disease and parasites, underscoring how Vikings linked sanitation to sacred protection. In Viking culture, sanitation was sacred. Leif returns to repair worn planks of the privy, fitting the wood carefully while Astrid tosses fresh straw onto the seat. The straw cushions the hard surface, providing modest comfort in an otherwise austere space. These small acts of maintenance reveal attention to dignity even in lowly tasks. Comfort was crafted even in the lowest places. As dusk falls, waste carriers load buckets for transport to nearby fields. Astrid sprinkles ash over the loads, murmuring blessings for fertile soil. This sacred act acknowledges waste as wealth, essential for crop growth and community survival. The ritual connects sanitation with agricultural renewal, emphasizing the cycle of life and death integral to Viking existence. Waste was wealth, sacred and fertile. The evening hush is broken by the rattle of chamber pots carried quietly through hallways. A lone monk in the longhouse carefully empties his pot into the same pit, illustrating how sanitation practices transcended social ranks. In shared necessity, privacy and discretion governed all. bridging disparate lives through common rituals. Sanitation bridged all levels of Viking life, the thunk of lids on wood, the sudden flight of flies, and the faint, persistent sting of ammonia on skin, immerse one fully in the sensory world of Viking sanitation. Each sound is a marker of survival, hygiene, and communal rhythms, subtle yet unyielding in presence. Every sound told a story of survival. Leif lights a torch as he prepares to descend into the privy pit for repairs. The rancid air stings his lungs and burns his eyes, a harsh reminder of the unseen challenges beneath the farmstead. His steady breath and focused movement speak to resilience and duty. Confronting decay beneath their feet, Vikings face decay. The privy pit and its surroundings served as social node spaces of necessary privacy yet communal sharing. Groups waited their turn, exchanging whispered conversations that balanced solitude with connection. These rituals fostered bonds and maintained social boundaries, weaving sanitation into the fabric of Viking community life. Even in isolation, Vikings shared their rituals. Though primitive, Viking sanitation reflected awareness of contamination risks. Ritual washings, herbal applications, and the use of cleansing smoke reveal a cautious balance between reverence and practicality. Such practices aimed to mitigate disease spread despite limited medical knowledge. They balanced risk with reverence. The harsh Nordic climate shaped sanitation routines. Freezing winters forced seasonal maintenance and adaptations to the privy pits and waste disposal methods. Frost and snow altered accessibility and hygiene practices, illustrating Vikings' ability to harmonize sanitation with environmental challenges. Nature dictated even the most private acts. Children learned sanitation customs early, imitating adults and absorbing ritual and practical knowledge. These teachings embedded hygiene and cultural identity, ensuring continuity of practice and health awareness across generations. Sanitation was tradition passed down. The camera slowly zooms out from the privy pit, revealing thriving fields beyond a living testament to the cycle of decay and renewal. In Viking resilience, waste was not merely discarded but transformed, root in survival and legacy deep in the earth. In their waste lay the roots of survival and legacy. A close-up reveals the intricate carvings of a rune stone, its worn surface depicting a crouching figure whose exact identity sparks debate among scholars. Some interpret the image as a Viking engaged in defecation, a rare, candid acknowledgement of sanitation in Viking culture. This suggests that even in their monumental art, the everyday reality of bodily functions was recorded, hinting at the complex interplay between necessity and taboo. The stone stands as a silent testament to how sanitation was embedded in collective memory, a presence both real and carefully veiled. Even in stone, the presence of privy life was etched into Viking memory. Defecation was essential, yet heavily cloaked in shame and secrecy. Vikings understood its practical importance, but navigated it with caution, balancing bodily needs against cultural taboos. Urban latrines were discreetly placed in back courtyards, rural pits hidden behind farmsteads, and waste disposal timed to minimize exposure. This duality shaped sanitation customs that were pragmatic but always careful to maintain privacy and social decorum. What must be done, yet hidden, shaped Viking sanitation customs. Privacy was safeguarded by wooden screens and natural barriers, with waste disposal often scheduled during early or late hours to avoid witnesses. Especially in towns, latrines were tucked away behind buildings to conceal these acts from public view. Such measures reveal how privacy was a guarded luxury, with social norms enforcing discretion to protect individual dignity amid communal living. These customs maintained boundaries in a world where exposure meant vulnerability. Privacy was a guarded luxury in the Viking world. To cleanse both the privy and the person, Vikings employed ritual substances like yarrow, juniper, ash, and even urine believed to ward off miasma and spiritual contamination. Sprinkling ash and burning herbs were common practices, blending hygiene with sacred protection. These rituals extended beyond physical cleanliness to encompass spiritual safety, reflecting a worldview where unseen forces influenced health. Cleanliness intertwined with spiritual safety. Saga, the seers' smoke ceremonies echoed these purification rites, using throat singing and aromatic herbs to cleanse latrines, much like plague wards. This underscores the belief that sanitation spaces were battlegrounds against invisible evils, where ritual was vital to community well-being. The smoke swirling round the privy became both protective and symbolic. Sanitation was a front line in the fight against unseen evil. Viking skaldic poetry includes bawdy humor about swollen bellies and explosive bowels, providing comic relief amid hardship. Tales of a troll king's privy mishaps served as cautionary stories, blending humor with moral lessons. These narratives offered levity and cultural critique, revealing that even taboo subjects were woven into storytelling traditions. Even taboo carried a lighter side in Viking culture. Nobles enjoyed private garderobes, while peasants shared communal pits. Access to sanitation was a microcosm of social hierarchy, with nobles' facilities located within castle walls and peasants' latrines positioned outside homes. This spatial division reinforced status, while subtle rules governed turn-taking and hygiene duties across classes. Sanitation reflected and reinforced social hierarchies. Within communities, unspoken rules determined who gained priority use and who endured the squeakiest planks. Disputes over latrine access mirrored broader power struggles and social tensions, making the bathroom a stage for negotiation and dominance. Even such intimate spaces were arenas for control and cooperation. The bathroom was a stage for power plays. Dr. Halvorsen explains how Vikings transformed shame into communal ritual, using sanitation as a means to sanitize taboo and foster social cohesion. By ritualizing these acts, they turned the unmentionable into shared human experience, reducing stigma and reinforcing group identity. Their practices made private needs public in culturally acceptable ways. Their rituals made the unmentionable a shared human experience. Rituals and secrecy helped mitigate anxiety surrounding bodily functions, allowing Vikings to mentally reconcile necessity with cultural restrictions. The repetition and solemnity of cleansing rites created a sense of control and safety, making these private acts bearable and even sacred within their belief system. Ritual made private acts bearable, even sacred. Viking bathrooms were more than hygiene sites. They were arenas where fear, superstition, shame, and social order collided. These spaces shaped Viking culture by mediating between natural needs and societal expectations, forging rituals that balanced survival with spiritual meaning. In their privies, Vikings fought unseen battles between nature, fear, and civilization. Under the microscope, helminth eggs embedded deep within the peat layers of Viking privy pits come into sharp focus. These tiny parasites, invisible to the naked eye, thrived in the damp, nutrient-rich environment created by human waste. Their presence reveals an unseen battlefield where Vikings confronted a constant threat lurking beneath their feet. These eggs tell a story of a hidden enemy, microscopic invaders that shaped daily life and health. Invisible enemies lurked beneath the surface of Viking life. Whipworms and other intestinal parasites completed complex life cycles within these latrine environments. Eggs deposited in feces hatched in the soil, reinfecting hosts through contaminated hands or food. Infection rates fluctuated with farming rhythms, peaking during planting seasons when waste was spread as fertilizer. This cyclical pattern tied Viking health directly to their agricultural practices, revealing an intimate link between disease and livelihood. Disease and farming rhythms were intertwined. Research indicates parasite infections surged during the planting months, when privy contents were deliberately applied to fields. While this practice enriched soil fertility, it also amplified transmission risks. Farmers unknowingly spread parasites alongside nutrients, balancing the gains of increased crop yields against growing health hazards. Sanitation practices fed both crops and contagion. Open latrine pits became breeding grounds for flies, prolific carriers of dysentery and typhus. Swarms buzzed over waste, transferring pathogens from filth to food and water sources. These tiny vectors magnified the impact of poor sanitation, turning a localized hazard into widespread community illness. Tiny carriers with deadly consequences. Rats scurried unseen between farm buildings, ferrying fleas responsible for plague and other devastating diseases. Their movement connected isolated households, expanding outbreaks beyond initial contamination sites. The presence of these rodents compounded Viking health challenges, as unseen armies compounded suffering with each bite and burrow. Unseen armies compounded Viking suffering. To combat contamination, Vikings strategically located privy pits downhill and downwind from living quarters. This careful planning minimized exposure to foul odors and microbial runoff, harnessing natural landscape features to improve sanitation. Such foresight reveals a pragmatic understanding of environmental health. Vikings engineered sanitation to harness nature's flow. Regular application of ash and lime to pit contents raised the pH, creating conditions hostile to microbial life. These natural disinfectants reduced odors and slowed decay, representing an early form of sanitation chemistry. Hands sprinkled these materials diligently, practicing science long before it was formally understood. Science before science. Nature's disinfectants in Viking hands. Vikings used herbal concoctions such as juniper wine and yarrow teas to expel intestinal worms. These remedies combined traditional knowledge with practical healing, targeting parasites with natural compounds known for their medicinal properties. Healing herbs fought the worms within. When physical cures failed, Vikings turned to spiritual intervention, exorcisms, and prayers aimed at driving out intestinal demons. These rituals reflected a worldview where illness was both physical affliction and supernatural battle, reinforcing the sacred role of sanitation. When science faltered, faith battled unseen foes. Epidemiologist Dr. Christian Kappel explains how modern analysis of Viking privy pits reveals detailed insights into their health, diet, and sanitation practices. Studying ancient waste uncovers adaptive strategies Vikings employed against disease, offering timeless lessons in human resilience. Ancient waste teaches us timeless lessons. Scenes shift between archaeological excavations, lab analyses, and contemporary trials of ash treatments, weaving a narrative that spans centuries. This continuum underscores humanity's enduring quest to control disease through sanitation, linking Viking ingenuity with modern science. From ancient pits to modern labs, the quest to conquer disease endures. In a tranquil eco-village, a modern composting toilet stands clean and functional, far removed from the Viking pit latrines, yet rooted in the same principle. Transforming waste into nourishment. Villagers tend to the system, carefully maintaining the balance of moisture and airflow that allows safe decomposition. This sustainable approach reflects a continuum of human ingenuity, turning what was once waste into a valuable resource for growing food. Modern innovation echoes ancient wisdom, turning waste into nourishment. Shift to crowded urban settings where sanitation workers, donned in protective gear, empty overflowing septic tanks amidst grims. Here, the battle against waste is relentless and perilous, highlighting the ongoing struggle many face daily. Drainage systems clog, flooding streets with raw sewage, posing constant health risks. Despite centuries of progress, sanitation remains a pressing challenge for billions worldwide. Despite progress, sanitation remains a daily struggle for billions. Globally, 1.7 billion people still lack access to basic toilets. In many regions, outbreaks of cholera and typhoid continue to devastate communities, echoing the diseases that once plagued Viking settlements. Maps reveal sanitation deficits concentrated in vulnerable areas where open defecation remains common. The fight against disease born of waste is far from over, underscoring sanitation as a fundamental yet unmet need for vast populations. Modern composting toilets and permaculture systems now safely recycle human waste, drawing on methods reminiscent of Viking fertilizer use. These approaches utilize recycled urine and composted matter to enrich soils without compromising health. Gardens flourish under these practices, demonstrating how ancient wisdom combined with scientific safeguards can promote sustainability and food security. Old practices, refined and safe for a sustainable future. In remote villages lacking sewage infrastructure, flushless off-grid latrines are constructed using timber and natural materials, echoing Viking privy designs. These robust structures provide durable sanitation solutions, blending traditional craftsmanship with modern needs. The timber frames stand resilient against weather and use, ensuring safe, dignified waste management where resources are scarce. Timber and ingenuity meet modern necessity. Communities worldwide are breaking taboos around sanitation through public art, storytelling, and bathroom humor. Murals celebrate hygiene. Festivals encourage open dialogue. Comedic skits normalize formerly hidden subjects. This cultural shift fosters healthier practices and greater acceptance, mirroring Vikings' communal rituals that transformed shame into shared experience. Breaking silence, building health through shared stories. Grassroots campaigns empower communities to eliminate open defecation through collective action. Workshops teach latrine construction. Meetings foster cooperation. This communal approach parallels Viking village collaboration around waste management, highlighting how shared responsibility promotes dignity and public health. Together, communities reclaim dignity and health. Sanitation engineer Emma Clark explains how Viking models inspire today's sustainable waste cycles, emphasizing respect for waste as a resource. By handling refuse thoughtfully, societies transform hazards into hope, fostering resilience and environmental care. Viking ingenuity offers lessons that transcend time and technology. Handling waste with care transforms it from hazard to hope. Across centuries, the practice of field fertilization from Viking privies to modern compost heaps demonstrates humanity's enduring relationship with waste. Time-lapse sequences show ancient farms giving way to green shoots nourished by compost, underscoring cyclical renewal. From ancient fields to tomorrow's gardens, cycles endure. A child plants seeds in soil enriched by safe compost, sunlight bathing young sprouts. This image symbolizes continuity, renewal, and hope, a tangible link between Viking-era practices and future sustainability. In the soil of the past grows the promise of our future. As twilight descends, Eric's farm latrine sits quiet beneath flickering torchlight. The wooden seat, worn smooth by generations, glows softly against the encroaching dusk. The faint scent of earth and smoke lingers, a reminder of centuries of careful tending and ritual respect. Moss clings to weathered planks, and carved runes speak silently of protection and strength. What once reeked with the burden of daily survival now rests as a testament to Viking ingenuity, blending necessity with belief to shape both life and land. Eric lifts fresh planks with steady hands, fitting them carefully to seal the pit's mouth. As he drives the final nail, he murmurs a blessing, words meant to ward off lingering spirits and disease alike. A pinch of ash is scattered over the wood, linking this moment to age-old practices that honored both hygiene and faith. In every plank, a hope for health. In every prayer, a plea for protection. This ritual marks the fragile balance Vikings maintained between the physical and spiritual realms of sanitation. The scene shifts to a modern bathroom, where a plumber tightens the last fitting on gleaming pipes. As the tap opens, water rushes freely, clear and cold. Polished surfaces reflect the soft light, symbols of progress built on ancient foundations. From Viking pits to modern plumbing, the quest for cleanliness is unbroken, a continuous journey of innovation and care, ensuring health and dignity across generations. The Vikings' battle for sanitation shaped not only health but also society and the land itself. Their legacy endures in every flush, every compost heap, every mindful act of care. A wooden plank carved with a rune meaning cleanliness is strength glows warmly in torchlight, before fading into the night's hush. Next time you sit, remember, every flush is a legacy, every compost pile a story of survival. How will you transform waste into wisdom?